Yo, this is WSoul13 bringing you Raid Shadow Legends, and today we're going to be doing the fusion plan for Nari the Lucky, right? So here we go. Unfortunately, I tried to do this on the treadmill today and I ran out of battery. So I already did my summons, I already got my points, so I'll just show you right now what the plan is and how you should also formulate your own plans when you're doing this kind of stuff from the F2P low spender's perspective, which is what I specialize in. So yeah, if you find this content useful, you can go ahead and like and subscribe. Comment on these videos. I respond to all the comments. So what's going on here? They're giving us a Fragment fusion for a Dwarf Legendary Force support. This is support? Death type champ. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. Alright, so let's go. First, whenever they do the Fragment fusion style events, what you're looking for is to count shards. Yeah? So let's count the shards real quick. We're going to be doing fragments. 20, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60 for the events. And then we got 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 for the tournaments. 55 plus 60, that's 115. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to count the Champ Chase and the Summon Rush fragments. So Champ Chase is 20, Summon Rush is 20. That's 40. 40 minus 115, you get 75. And 75 minus 100 is 25. So that's how many fragments you'll need from Summon Rush or Champ Chase to get Nari, to get lucky and get Nari. So, you know, is that something you want to do? Is it going to be worth doing? And what's the cost going to be? So this is what I specialize in. And if you've been following my advice and you've been diamond handing these shards, bro, you should have enough to do this event. But at the same time, the shift from 120 to 115 basically means it's going to be very hard to get your 100 fragments without finishing one of the two summon events. And, you know, you could say, oh, you could win a tournament, but winning a tournament is way harder, in my opinion, than just finishing a Summon Rush or a Champ Chase event. So which of the two should you go for? How should you go about it? And is Nari worth it, right? So those are the questions we're going to answer. And I'm going to show you what I pulled later when I botched the first time I truly wanted to do this video. But let's go. So Summon Rush right now. So they're giving us 10x. And as always, whenever I talk about 10x, you ignore the left side of the screen. So I'm just going to use my face and cover the left side of the screen. This honestly doesn't matter. You're never going to get any of those champs. Even if you do, you know, I mean, great if you do, but most of the time you won't. So the first thing we look at is the void shards. In general, it's not worth it to go after the 10x epics for void shards unless they're like a game-changing type champ. So who did they give us this time? I think, who's this? Genbo. So Genbo is more like an arena nuker. So he has an AoE here, and then he puts increased crit rate, increased crit damage on himself, extra turn, and then 20% arena speed in battle. So pulling this as, you know, just a natural pull outside of a 10x, you would consider him in a team even with high Katun in it, because you get the extra 1% of speed aura here. You know, speed is the need in the arena. But at the same time, he's not really at the level of Skull Crown in terms of the F2P low spender, kind of like gold standard for a epic nuker. So now we're gonna look at void shards in general. I don't suggest it at all. Go with Sacreds more for this event. The first one you could possibly get is Husk. Husk is a enemy max HP damage type champ. He's pretty good. I think underrated by a lot of people. So he has this AoE enemy max HP skill here with stun. So before, when the maximum stage level was 20 and all the speed runs had to be done by enemy max HP damage champs, Husk was kind of like underrated, and rightfully so, because he didn't do as much damage as Royal Guard or Septimus or Coldheart even, and he's the wrong affinity for Spiders 20. So, you know, one of the two best places to have enemy max HP damage in was Spiders and Dragons, right? And you were kind of like not good against one of those two. You know, you could argue for Fire Knight and Ice Golem as well, but most of the speed runs with enemy max HP damage would be Dragons or Spiders. And now, though, with Stage 25 and the Almighty passive, which limits the enemy max HP damage to 10% at the most, he's actually not bad. 4-turn cooldown. He brings a stun for the waves, plus he hits hard against the waves, you know. So he's actually not bad right now for the higher Stage 25 dungeons, but he's also finding a lot of places in Hydra Boss, where Hydra Boss, even though the Hydra Boss does have the Almighty passive cap on there, you deal a lot of damage with enemy max HP AoE nukes. So he gives you another enemy max HP AoE nuker in Hydra Boss. So if you get him for that, that's fine. I mean, not really someone you go out your way to try to get, but Magnar is somebody you might think about going out of your way to get because of this in particular. AoE, chance to place an extra hit if the enemy doesn't have HP burn on them. So it's really, really good. It's like Trunda's AoE. Of course, Trunda will hit harder, but Magnar scales off HP. So for the F2P low spender type player, where you're playing more grindy type comps that you want to survive and do extra turns of stuff with, he fits well as an arena nuker because you can also use him in your dungeon runs. Yeah? So I think Magnar is the chase guy for this 10x. If you get him, great. He would be the reason to pull. And then Thylisha's great. I mean, she's like War Maiden with upside, so you get a 100% chance to place AoE decreased defense, which is good on an epic. You don't want to book that chance up. But the cooldowns is at 4, so War Maiden's at 3. Obviously, that's better. And then she can also put Hex on if they're under the decreased defense already. And she has another AoE on her A2, so it kind of synergizes. It's good synergy. I'm not saying it's bad synergy, but we haven't seen the upside on Hex yet to make this kind of like a must-pull type champ. But, you know, eventually, I think it's going to be a thing. They just haven't found the right content for it yet, I think. So, yeah, I ended up pulling 3 Sacred Shards because we're going to go to the events right now. And I'll probably claim my points right now. So I ended up pulling 3 Sacred Shards because the plan is that I'm going to go harder on Champ Chase. So here we go. I got my 3 right here. 1,500 points. Yep. So I'm going to finish off the rest with just Mystery Shards. That's it. Nothing fancy. Nothing too crazy. And then we're going to look at my pulls right now. And then I'll explain what the plan is afterwards. So the pulls are as follows. I got Terror Beast, Husk, and I think Missionary. So I did get a 10x. So I told you guys, right? In terms of just how you'd see 10x, you should gamble in 10x every now and then for the right reasons. Like a champ in there could potentially change your account. So yeah, if for me Magnar was the one I was going for, sadly I didn't get him. There'll be other opportunities because usually these 10x champs, they offer them up over and over again, you know, because there's just a certain amount of epics that players like in general. But the plan for right now, I think the best way to go about this would be to, where is Nari? Oh, there we go. I think the plan for right now, you should try to go for Champ Chase because there's mitigation there. And if you went back to the news portion, Champ Chase overlaps with Champ Training, and both of them are pretty high points. I think 20 fragments for that Champ Training or 15 fragments for that Champ Training event. So they overlap, which means if you farm campaign during that time, you'll get extra points, and the extra points will go into your Champ Chase tournament. So I think that's the way to go, and then you just secure your 5 fragments right here. The only flip side to that is if you're banking more on Sacred Shards to get through the event. So you're going to need about 5,000 points to get through. If they offer Champ Chase up for 3,000 points, which they did before, it's going to be 4,750. So roughly 9 Sacred Shards plus change. But the thing is, if you're leaning more towards Sacred Shards to get those points, it's better to get them here because, you know, it's going to be harder to score those points with Sacred Shards in the Champ Chase event. In the Champ Chase, you're probably going to be pulling Ancients to fill up most of the points, even if it's a 2x Void, you know. Even if it's a 2x Void, I might actually just fill up mine with Ancients. And then just your other Fragment Fusions and things like that that you've stored up. And then you're going to fill up the rest with Mystery Shards and Campaign Farming. So let's take a look at Nari himself, why he's good, right? So, these are like surface reasons. There is a deeper, more central reason why you should go for him as an F2P low spender. But on the surface, he has buff steal on the A1, and then buff steal on the passive. Every time he takes a turn, he can take a buff. And then an AoE provoke with counterattack. So the counterattack procs the A1, so he gets more buff steals that way, right? Counterattack only on himself. So on the surface, you know, that seems okay for Hydra Boss, since Hydra Boss tends to steal your buffs anyway, so you take the buffs back and things like that. And you need kind of a recursive way to get rid of buffs against Hydra Boss. Anyway, so Nari is kind of a slam dunk there. Plus, he's a defense-based champ, you know, so he's very easy to protect and keep going in places like Hydra Boss. But I think, in my humble opinion, you know, this applies for Hydra Boss as well. But in my humble opinion, I think the true upside potential to Nari is hard Doom Tower for F2P low spenders. And the reason why is AoE, decreased accuracy, and decreased resistance. So once you get the end game hard Doom Tower, it's a very harsh stat and gear check, and that is one weakness in the F2P low spenders game. It's gonna be just gear in general. So yeah, it's gonna be relatively easy to gear for Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss, for Dragon's 20, Spider's 20, Fire Knight 20, even 24, 25. It's relatively easy to gear for those pieces of content, but hard Doom Tower, it gets really hairy in terms of the gearing there. So what you want to look out for is things that can help you mitigate the stack requirements. So you're looking for ways to cheat around the stack requirements. So one of them would be an accuracy aura. That's why I like Drexar Blood Twin a lot for F2P low spenders. So like think about the strategy that I want you to do. At first, you're going to be doing the F2P Trinity, which is going to be your starter, War Maiden, and then Haikatun. So you got your Speed Booster in Haikatun, AoE decreased defense in War Maiden, and then Nuker in your starter. You combine those three, and that should be enough with some supporting champs to get you through Dragons 16 to 20, Minnow 15, and then Dungeons 13 to 16. So for the most part, it's going to be good. It's going to be farmable for those range if you focus on those three champs. Once you get to the hard Doom Tower aspect of the game, the three champs you're going to end up focusing on will be what I call the F2P Legendary Trinity, which is going to be Scylla the Drakes, Drexar Blood Twin, and Vizix. So Vizix provides the control. All three of them provide control, by the way. So Vizix provides the AoE decreased speed on top of her control elements, provoke. And then on stun sets, you can also bring stuns. Drexar is going to bring AoE HP burn-ish because the provoke gets the people to attack him. He puts HP burn on. But more importantly, he brings plus 70 accuracy aura, which lowers your accuracy requirements once you get hard Doom Tower. Then finally, Scylla the Drakes. We all know why she's good. So heal, revives, stuns, AoE, but are relentless. You get these crazy turn sequences. So those are all accessible, even to FTP low spenders. So why would you want a champ that focuses more on accuracy rather than speed? Speed is where it's a little bit hairy for the FTP low spender to focus on speed. What this does is you could free up that aura for the speed aura by shifting it to your natural set. So what would be the main difference between decreased resistance and increased accuracy? They're kind of like the same concept, right? So the main difference would be that if you're snowballing and you're keeping the enemy waves controlled, you're gonna be taking more turns than the enemy waves. Whenever that happens, debuffs are usually better than buffs. That's just the way it goes, because like debuffs will just stick on to the dude you want to keep debuffing, right? And this decreased res is going to act like an increased accuracy buff, but it stays on to the controlled enemy champ. So that right there is great. And the decreased accuracy will open up resistance-based builds. If you want to go the resistance-based build route, I never did that in any of my Hard Doom Tower clears. But, you know, you could get kind of like creative and do the resistance route with like, I don't know, 250 resist maybe, and then just pack the decreased accuracy right here, and you're good. And 250 res is really easy to get. It's not that hard to get. So yeah, that's why I think Nari is very, very good for the FTP low spender crowd. You should definitely go for him, even if you're not going to use him right away, like you're still progressing, you haven't hit stage 20 all the dungeons yet. He's going to come in for you somehow, somewhere along the way. Once you get to Hard Doom Tower, once you're doing faction wars for dwarves, you're gonna be one of the lucky ones if you pull this guy now. So I'm hoping that they kind of keep the point structure the same for Champ Chase. We'll see. It looks like they are going to stick with this new structure for the Fragment fusion events, which is not great, but also not terrible. It's still doable. And this is more reason for people to kind of like double down on the strategy of basically not pulling almost any other time other than fusion events and guaranteed champ events that you're going to participate in. So yeah, that's the whole thing with Nari. We'll do updates along the way. We'll definitely recheck when we get to the champ chase portion of the event. And then good luck to everybody. Hopefully you get some lucky pulls. Yeah. See y'all next time.